You can hear me, right?
Oh yeah, I can see and hear you really good.
Okay, all right, that works. That works. All right, cool.
And
So,
it might not be the thing I've been drinking all day, so it might be me glitching over here.
no, I can tell. Whiskey from Wi-Fi. You know what I'm saying? It's a little different.
Right.
What would you?
This is Yeah. A collection of stories. Landover Legend Studios presents. I've been through a lot. The I Can't Make This Up podcast. Yeah. By Big C.
Oh, I'm gonna pray and I'm gonna pray and make sure you can make it. And it's like now, like that's good. Prayer is good. That relationship with source is good and all that, but it's like at the same time that material, like we need money. We need places that we can pass down to generations that are coming behind us. Like it's a lot bigger than just us existing. Like our existence, whether you are tight with your actual family or not, you might also have that chosen family. And all this is a business, you know? And again, there was a quote, and I can't think of who made that quote. But basically the idea is some of us are born poor, but the idea is to leave this world a rich person in every sense of that word. And so I want more Black people to be able to focus on that.
I agree, and I hope that one day we can see that type of mindset spread across this great world. Ladies and gentlemen, I am your host, the Landover Legend, aka Big T, and thank you for tuning in for another episode of the I Can't Make This Up podcast. You have been listening to the wise and humorous words of my next guest, Mr. Sampson Mccormick. Sampson, please introduce yourself to my audience.
Oh man, hello audience. So a little bit about me, I sell dope. Um, I got a few bodies on my record. No, I'm playing. Where I'm at in life is I am a comedian. I've been in this business now for over 20 years. I'm a filmmaker. I'm also someone who's very involved in our community with using the platform to do important work that we need to do in our community. And I'm happy to be Black. I'm happy to be alive. I'm happy to be who I am, and I'm happy to just be.
Yeah, you're right about that. Just being here is a prize in its own, especially for Black people these days. So, congratulations on waking up and making it this morning, just like I did. You know what I'm saying?
Right? That's when you got some shit you're dealing with when we gotta be happy that we're still alive, But it's still a good thing.
Most definitely, most definitely. So, looking at your bio, man, I seen that you actually been in quite a few films. B Boy Blues, Love the One You're With, Different Direction. What got you into acting?
Oh wow. Okay, so well, first, number one is comedy,
Okay.
and if you from DC, comedy is not that big of a deal for us. DC is comedy. If you grew up, I'm originally from DC. I grew up in my earliest years on Bryant Street Northeast.
Okay.
And it's over there by Rhode Island Avenue. And that's what we grew up doing. We grew up sitting on the porch talking about each other's mamas, you know,
Yeah.
talking about nobody knew who, or either we had daddies and we didn't know we were all sharing the same daddy, you know. Um, a lot of us we used humor to get through things that we didn't understand, to get through life. Humor has always been a part of Black culture. So for me, it was comedy, but acting and telling our stories has been important for me for many reasons. Number one is because media is very influential in how we understand ourselves as Black people.
Mm-hmm.
And also, another issue that we have to deal with in the Black community is acceptance of sexuality. Like, I'm a Black gay man. I've known that I was gay since I was 4 years old. And I get that some people are uncomfortable with that, and that's okay. But there need to be avenues where people who are ready to have that conversation or who are interested in parts of that conversation are able to get whatever information that they need. And I think that media and film is an important avenue to be able to do that.
Okay. So, what were some of your influences coming up that made you, stretch out and try comedy and want to do it?
Oh, Arsenio Hall. I think we all grew up watching Arsenio Hall.
Oh yeah.
On school nights, Arsenio had this world that a lot of us were interested in, and celebrity back then wasn't like it is now. Now everybody's a celebrity. Now, you're more special if people don't know who you are.
Yeah.
But back then, you had Martin Lawrence, you had Eddie Murphy, you had all these emerging Black filmmakers, Spike Lee.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a world I was very interested in, because when you turned on the television, the only thing that you saw about Black people was how we were being destroyed by the AIDS epidemic, or how we were being destroyed by the drug epidemic. And for me, growing up in a place like DC, and are you from DC, T?
I'm from Landover, right outside of DC.
It's the same thing. It's
Yeah.
the same area. That the same culture.
DMV
The great
natives.
the DMV. There's a certain because that's all we saw before gentrification.
Mm-hmm.
We knew there was a certain strength in being Black. So, and I also grew up around those brothers who taught conspiracy theories and sold the bean pies, and we watched Roots, and we read those books. And so I grew up like that, which is why I had that very strong pro-Black foundation. So whenever I would see the news growing up at like 4 and 5, and I saw all this stuff about how our dads were going to jail, how our brothers were going to jail for selling dope and all this other stuff, I knew that there was a lot more to us than that. And shows like Arsenio Hall, for me, countered that narrative.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to be a part of that, because I was like, I always thought that Black men in particular were a lot stronger than what we were seeing on the news.
Most definitely. I think that not everybody had those strong examples coming up, and that's what made them lash out and become bullies or be one of the corner boys or whatever. Because, growing up around here, you need tough skin. You know what I'm saying? Looking at me, I know I'm handsome and everything, but younger, I wasn't confident. People would see my head and ask me, when I'm going to launch and shit like that. They used to hurt. You know what I'm saying? But
Right.
you know what I'm saying, after a while I realized that I can retaliate the same way they was doing and get a laugh out of it, or I'll end up fighting these dudes and get myself in worse trouble than before if I just didn't say nothing. But I wasn't going to internalize it anymore. So I think that a lot of people internalize things that don't know how to get what I'm saying, get those frustrations out, what I'm saying, and not endanger themselves by lashing out physically or even verbally. You know what I'm saying? You say the wrong thing at your job, and because you work with somebody else, you gone.
Right. Well, again, for us, humor again was a huge thing, because humor could make or break you.
Mm-hmm.
And it really is it's sad to see where we are now in the world, because all humor is the truth.
Mm-hmm.
That's all it is. That's what makes it funny, is because people tell them the truth. And when people, especially in the Black community, and I have a joke in my comedy show right now about my teeth, because I was talking about how I got my teeth fixed because when I was growing up, that's what people made fun out of.
Yeah.
And so the thing that's happened with a lot of people now is people can't handle the truth. Like, if people are fat, again, I grew up, people knew I was gay growing up, so they made fun out of me for that. But the difference was, number one, you learn how to fight. And so you learn how to gain your respect.
Mm.
And then number two, you learn to accept the joke. Because if you were fat, if you had messed up teeth, if your mama was bald headed, if your daddy was if your daddy was gay, whatever was going on that people
Yeah.
made fun out of, you being able to get in on the joke allowed you to accept that reality. And the reality is that sometimes life will deal you some unfavorable conditions. You don't get to choose what happens to you in life. The only thing you can choose is how you respond to it. How you respond to it controls whether your life is good or bad. And I feel like I think we had a grasp on that at one time, but I think we've kind of lost control of that, like, because everybody is butthurt about everything now. If you gay, for instance, with this whole Dave Chappelle situation going on right now,
Okay.
it makes people uncomfortable sometimes. Like, I'm gay. I know that when people first hear that, that might make some people uncomfortable. That's the reality. If people don't do that, they're like, what the hell? Well, is this motherfucker here trying to hit on me? And if you can get in on that joke, it makes people accept you a lot easier and a lot quicker because you're comfortable with who you are. You're able to accept the situation for what it is. And when you can accept the situation, what does that mean? You can deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're not able to deal with a situation for what it is, then everybody's going to be awkward. And so humor allows us to, like, laugh at the reality. Like, yeah, this is some weird shit going on. But we can laugh at it. Yeah, we're uncomfortable. But now, we're sitting here laughing at it. And now the conversation is a lot easier to have. And that's what we need to get back to.
Yeah. Comedy is definitely a catalyst and an endorphin that relaxes you, and it brings people together, whether you know it or not. You can all sit in the room, no matter what country you were born in or what shade you are, and you can all laugh. You know what I'm saying? Laughter is non-binary. Now,
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't matter if someone says something that the next person might not understand, because every joke ain't for everybody. You know what I'm saying? And keyword, different strokes for different folks. You know what I mean? So it's being open minded enough to accept it is fine if not everyone's going to get it. And like you said, with everybody being so butthurt, you can't forget that you're not the only one that's going through something. You got
Mm-hmm.
people that's I seen a video of some lady running up on Afion Crawford on stage because what I'm saying, she didn't agree with his comedy. Like, okay, that's your biggest concern. Like, it's people out here losing their lives every day, and this is your biggest concern. That's what you decide to fight for. Like, come on, man, you can do a lot better than that.
Well, it shows where we are as a society. And for me as a comedian, like, I've been in this business now for over 20 years. Like, I study it. Like, I study it on that scientific level of what it takes to get on a stage and make people laugh that you don't know,
Mm-hmm.
but also the political, the social, and the historical aspects of it. And dating back to both African history, where it was used as a tool to share our history as Black people, on back to, and even in African kingdoms, and also back in Roman and Greek kingdoms, you always had the jester, which is the comedian, who was the only one who could stand in front of the king and tell the truth. Right? Nobody else could tell the truth, because if they did, they would get killed. We are now in a society where the gesture is more of the public, because we've cut out a lot of the politicians and stuff. Is like right to social media where people can share their opinions and things like that. And we are killing the humor. We are killing the comedians. And when we're doing that, that means we can no longer acknowledge the truth. That says something about where we are as a society. We can't accept the truth no more. That's a
Hmm.
problem.
Yeah, you put it that
It's a
way,
huge problem.
you're absolutely right. I don't think that. I mean, you got to look at it like this. How many cover-ups have you seen come out, X amount of years later from the government? The truth can't, the truth doesn't make money. The truth doesn't keep people, what I'm saying, running that corporate machine that fuels the fat cats. Because that's all, at the end of the day, classism rules all. You know what I'm saying? Everything
Mm-hmm.
that spurs from it is just, people like you and me, arguing with the next person because they got a few more pennies than we do, or they got a different situation than we do. You know what I mean? Because at the top, it doesn't matter to them. The only thing that matters is that while we argue, we spend the money that pays them. You know what I mean?
That's right. That's right. That's right.
Nah, I can't. So I mean, it is what it is. I can only digest but so much, so I don't internalize everything. So when I go looking for stress relievers, I look for comedians like yourself, comedians like Trevor Noah, comedians like Roy Woods Jr. You know what I'm saying? People that aren't doing those stock jokes, you know what I'm saying, that you see a lot of these comedians do. And it's a difference between a comic and an MC, you know what I'm saying? And not everybody understands that difference. So
Mm-hmm.
let me ask you this. So what was uh what was the first time you ever hit the stage, and how was that for you?
Oh man. So the first time I ever did comedy on a stage was when I was in fifth grade at Concord Elementary School
Okay.
in is that District Heights, Maryland? I think it was District Heights. It's either District Heights or Forestville, Maryland, one of the two.
Okay.
And um, you grew up in the DMV too, so I don't know. But I think for us, we know growing up in the DMV for youth, for kids, we found ourselves in a lot of situations I don't think many kids anywhere else would have found themselves in.
Oh yeah,
you
most
know,
definitely.
we had teachers who cussed at us. We had teachers who didn't give a fuck. They would just walk out of class and they don't pay me enough for this shit. I'm leaving.
Some teachers used to beat us, you know what I'm saying, with permission from
Yeah,
the parents, or will hold us until our parents got there, let us get
yeah,
whooped, and then went on about their lesson.
yeah. They would jack you up, stuff like that. And I had a teacher, Miss Lynn, and then Mr. Mumford. Those were the two fifth grade teachers at Concord. And I got suspended a lot growing up.
Hmm.
I never fought. I've always been, I thank God, I've always gotten along very well with everybody. Because I mean, I relate to people very well. My thing was, I grew up again around Black people who taught me not to believe anything that I learned at school, you know?
Okay.
So when you got a teacher who's teaching you, okay, so Christopher Columbus came to America and he discovered America and the Indians were there. Immediately, I'm going to poke a flaw in that logic and go, okay, so if he discovered America, how did he discover it if Indians were already there? And I'm raising my hand in class. I got questions, you know? And it was funny the way I would ask it. And we also had, a lot of my classmates were funny. We would play off of each other. But the difference was that I always was funny in that way where I could make it a presentation.
Okay.
And so Miss Lynn and Mr. Mumford, I don't know what happened, but our classes, you had like 80 kids, because them classes used to be overcrowded. And they put us all in this one class together. And I think our textbooks, we didn't get like they didn't deliver our textbooks or something. I forgot what had happened, but our teachers were winging it. And so this particular day in class, Miss Lynn or Mr. Mumford, who was a big In Living Color fan at that time,
Mm-hmm.
knew that I was a funny kid. And so he said, well, why don't you come up here and tell some jokes in front of the class? And so I did for 10 minutes. And I was like, wow, this is something that I can do. And that was the first time. It was in fifth grade.
Wow, that's early. Like to have that I guess that spark of inspiration at that early of an age, that's dope. I didn't see that coming. I figured it would have probably been like high school or something. So that's what's up.
Yeah, it was fifth grade. And I remember when I was in preschool, because I grew up in church too. So I grew up seeing the pastors preaching. And
Mm-hmm.
um, the thing about it, some people call it trauma now, and I don't like the word trauma. I hate that word trauma.
Mm-hmm.
I think life is traumatic, and you have to learn how to deal with your experiences. You have to learn how to allow your experience, like observe the experiences that you had and allow them to make you into the person you need to be, you know? And so some people will call it trauma. I don't think that it's trauma, even though, it was some shit that did fuck us up as kids. I grew up around adults. Like I didn't hang out with other kids when I was growing up. I hung out around people who was 20, 30 years older than me. So we had pastors in our church who would preach, and then they would get out the pulpit, and I would see them in the parking lot spitting on the ground going, hey nigga, where my money
Oh man.
at? So I had that, and my understanding about life was just a lot deeper than a regular 5 or 10-year-old. I didn't understand what it was, but I got it. And so that even now that helps me. Most of my friends now are 20 years older than I am.
Yeah, I think that once you hit a certain age, you realize that people in positions of power or authority or leaders and stuff like that, no matter how I don't want to say like great their presence is or how good they are at their job or that position, they're still human at the end of the day. And when you're younger, what I'm saying, depending on how you were raised, you're going to look at that person the way you view, other people in your life or what you see on TV, especially if you came up in the 90s like I did. So, I used to go to this church about 20 years ago, and the pastor we had, I could have swore either he used to be like on Soul Train or he did a lot of like dancing, because I swear he used to pop a lot when he was, what I'm saying, doing his sermon. And like even when he was like, doing the prayer line, he was putting the oil on people's forehead and everything. I was like, man, ain't nobody seeing this move. Am I the only one watching him doing this? Like he's practicing in the middle of his sermon, and ain't nobody saying this but me, like the way he would pivot on his foot. And one time I almost caught him about the moonwalk, but he stopped. I was just like,
Right,
man,
right, right,
this is crazy.
and this was
So
in the DC area.
this was actually in Bladensburg. That's what the church was in Bladensburg. So,
That
um,
sounds about right.
yeah. So it was in an elementary school because building fund and all that good stuff.
Right, right, right. That makes sense. That makes sense.
Yeah. So I think that it's just like when you see someone like what Kirk Franklin and his son in that situation. Everyone was putting their 2 cents in it, but I'm like, I've seen Kirk Franklin when I was doing security for an event, and what I'm saying, everybody don't realize that he's a man at the end of the day. You know what I'm saying? So as a gospel singer, he's not a preacher or anything, but he's who he has to be. He has to be, what I'm saying, that person to keep his thing going. And everyone, what I'm saying, chiming him saying he went against this, he went against that. I don't think he ever said, what I'm saying, anything different outside of what he's done anything different or presented himself to be like this holy figure or nothing like that. So,
Hmm.
saying for him to, cuss his son out or whatever, that's between him and his son. And the fact that his grown ass son decided to put it out there to get some type of help or clout, it just tells you more about the son than it does about Kurt.
I don't know about that. I think I don't know. I think that's very complicated. I think that's a very complicated situation, but I think that it's important that it did get put out there because it is allowing us to have a conversation about what it looks like to be somebody who may be spiritual, religious,
Mm-hmm.
and also your reality as a human being and the different dynamics that still exist in families. And I say that as a person who doesn't have the best relationship with my own family. We need to talk about that type of stuff. And I think it benefits people on both sides.
Mm-hmm.
What I've accepted as I've developed more life experience is our parents are not always going to be who we want them to be, and we don't have to talk to them. If it's not conducive to who we need to be as adults. Um, on the other side, as people who deal with whatever it is that we're dealing with, we also need clarity on what that looks like. And I think that when you have those type of conversations available, I think that it helps us to be able to distinguish and be able to navigate. So I think it's healthy to put it out there. It makes people uncomfortable, but uncomfortable is good.
All right. So putting it out there to the family is one thing, but putting it out to the world, it's different if they had a discussion and they decided to speak on, you know, uh, issues inside the black homes with, family dynamics, but I just don't like when, tabloids try to, what I'm saying, take advantage of, people's family matters, especially when you know how influential that social media can be. You know what I'm saying? You got people making life decisions based on comments, that people making about their lives and stuff like that. So that's my whole thing about it. Like, it's important that, we as black people have those conversations, and we put everything out there. We need to clear those skeletons out the closet so we don't continue with what a lot of people have been using the word, the generational curses. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
Well, I agree, but I mean, think about how powerful. And I say this because I don't have judgment about it.
mhm.
At the end of the day, it's real life. I think it becomes a problem when people look at it and they try to change it from what it is.
Mhm.
Like you said, Kirk Franklin is a man who sings gospel music and he has a private life.
Mhm.
And that's reality right there. But I think that it helps us to have that conversation about how, even in this situation where this real life man who presents this one way has
Mhm.
these challenges at home, will allow both sides to realize what it is that they're dealing with. And I think that's what's really, I don't want to know if I want to use the word special, but that's what's really important about that, is that it humanizes. And I think it does a great deal for both sides, because you get a lot of people who don't feel human, because they feel like they gotta hide something. I think there's something now. Again, this goes back to that comedy conversation that we were having, when people can't accept the truth. And I think we have lost that as a society because we're so wrapped up in image. And the reality is we none of us are perfect. All of us, well, everybody got something
Mhm.
that they're dealing with, and we need to be able to understand, you all have your thing. Now, how are you dealing with it? And I think that's what's the most important.
Yeah, you're right. I think that a lot of people don't understand that, fear and insecurity are within us and can be within everybody, and we deal with that sometimes on a daily basis. Sometimes it's not as strong, but it's still there. What I'm saying? Stuff
Mhm.
like that is a part of human nature. So, I mean, without that, sometimes, we don't turn out the way we envision ourselves to be compared to our youngest mindsets. So now that you get a little older, you get a better concept of things you were struggling with when you were younger and a preteen, and then as you became an adult, you started breaking those things down. But not everybody can do that. Not like I said earlier, not everyone is self-aware enough to dissect those parts of their lives. And I think that's
Mhm.
what's important. You know what I'm saying? Realizing that, you know, what you consider to be different or weird or, something to be shameful for, you shouldn't. Like, you're a human just like me and the next person. And we all go through it. We all have insecurities. We all have fears. But when you don't have the right people teaching you that, then what I'm saying, your line of thinking and your whole mindset can shift, and you can just end up in a crazy situation. That's why I always thought it was crazy when I saw people my age in high school who were living on the streets. You know what I mean? Like that's a hard pill to swallow. But I'm just like, you mean to tell me you don't have nobody in your family that cares enough to make sure that you're not outside begging for change or hanging out in front of the store like that? Like,
But I mean, there's another conversation because sometimes you don't that right there. And see, now we getting all deep. I hope the people who listen, and I hope y'all got a blunt in your hand because here we go.
okay.
But I mean, that's the reality. Is again, this is something that we've had somebody we don't know who gave it this to us, who said, "Oh, this is your family, and this is what family has to look like." The reality is your family. The only loyalty to them you have is your blood. That's it.
Hmm.
But if you know anything about history, if you know anything about how things really are, is sometimes even people who share blood with you, those are going to be the people who treat you the worst.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Unfortunately, but I mean that's the reality. And a lot of people, they for some reason, a lot of people can't accept that because again, we have been handed this idea, oh, this is your family. This is what the structure needs to look like. You don't know what you're gonna get. A lot of the times your biggest enemies will be your family, and the biggest supporters and people who pull you through those times where you really don't know you might get through. They're going to be people you don't know, people you never met before, people who you don't got no history with, and those are going to be the people who reach down and pick you up and lift you up. And so again, when you see the way things really are, I just think it's important to be able to accept that. And again, when it comes back to humor, I think the humor allows you to be able to survive.
Yeah, most definitely. I've been in crazy situations that people wouldn't believe. You know what I'm saying? Like, uh, uh, I uh, I met a serial hitchhiker. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
And when you hear that, you thinking like, what is he talking about? Like this guy, he was like in his 70s, maybe early 80s, but he had dementia,
Okay.
and he ended up on my street. I ended up talking to him. I was fixing my car, and he ended up asking me for a ride, and he wanted me to drop him off at his house, and he stayed right there off of T Street in Northeast.
Okay.
So I was like, "Cool, all right. I'll drop you off or whatever." We end up going to the house. He ends up becoming like real disillusional, like he forgot where he was or whatever, and I'm confused by the situation. So, long story short, I end up knocking on the door of the house that he had me take him to, right? And lady comes to the door. She's like, he doesn't live here. This is the fourth time it's happened since I lived here. Apparently, he used to stay there back in the 70s, and every now and then he finds people to bring him to the house. He ended up, I ended up finding out from the police that he ended up escaping from St. Elizabeth's Hospital that morning and somehow made it to me.
Oh, hold on 1 second. Can we take a minute to talk about St. Elizabeth's?
Yeah,
A
yeah.
lot of people don't know about Saint. We used to call it Saint E's.
They still do, still do.
Saint E's had the craziest people who came out of there.
Yeah.
So if they came out of Saint E's, it was a story attached to them.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I became one of his stories that, hopefully, he's doing a lot better. I was just glad that, someone who didn't want to see him walking around in 30-degree weather, just ignored him. Even though I went through a little trouble with the police or whatever, at least he got back to where he needed to be. But, you know, uh, all types of crazy situations happen every day. You know what I'm saying? You see them
Mm-hmm.
on the news, your friends tell you about them. And yeah, I think it's important that we don't judge, you know what I'm saying, anybody, because you never know, what led them to that point, right? So,
Yeah.
I think that if we had a lot more people who were open-minded enough to ask the question instead of assuming, and then what I'm saying, this world can start being a little better. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. And again, we should go back to comedy though.
Okay.
That's where comedy comes in, because if you can, the thing about it is everything is not for you to understand right off, because we're human. We don't know everything. When you're able to laugh at something, when you're able to look at something and make a joke out of it, that allows your brain the bandwidth to be able to start processing it.
Mhm.
Even if you don't understand it, if you can laugh at it, that allows you to be able to look at it and acknowledge the reality of what's going on, which I think is healthy, because life is going to throw you some curveballs. And it's insane the way we have gotten away from the ability to laugh at stuff. And again, I blame it on social media.
Okay. So why exactly would you blame it on social media?
Social media is because when you see this is a place where you come for validation.
Mm-hmm.
If you think back to the 80s and 90s, nothing was about, I mean, of course you had people who may have had low self-esteem. You had shy people. Do you ever see shy people anymore? No, you don't. you know,
Yeah.
you see people who, the thing about shy people, most shy people live in their heads. If you look at social media, there may be a shy person, and shy, we don't break down the characteristics of what that might mean. But shy basically is somebody who doesn't feel the most comfortable expressing themselves outwardly to people.
Mm-hmm.
When that is someone, you can get on a platform like social media and you can express yourself the way you experience the world in your head, which is a lot more interesting. Which is why you might see someone who's able to do that on social media, and then you meet them in person, and you're like, this motherfucker was awkward. He couldn't hold no conversation, you know. And then we don't know how to have that conversation about social anxiety and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
The thing about humor though is humor allows us to be able to do that. With humor, you might not be able to you might not be able to put a name on it, a label on it, but you can describe it. You can describe what the experience was. You
Mm-hmm.
you can describe how the way it made you feel, what
Yeah.
this crazy shit was like. And you can be honest about it. Whereas if you got somebody who's on the other side who might be able to do it too, now you can have this conversation. But it's like now there's this thing where you get this one side who doesn't understand something that really, realistically, it does not make sense, because we have X'd out this human equation out of it because everybody's posturing. And so now I present this way. This is who I am. You don't get to question it. Because if you're questioning this, you're anti whatever it is I'm saying that I am. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, for instance, I just did an interview a few minutes ago before I came on here with a wonderful trans woman. And I was explaining to her why I support Dave Chappelle.
Okay.
Number one is because I'm a comedian. And number two, I'm comfortable with myself as a Black gay man. I know who I am. I know how people might feel about it. Now I don't give a fuck. You know, because I know who I am. I know I'm a good dude. And so I think if you really know who you are, you really truly know who you are, you can't be shook by nothing nobody. So somebody say some gay shit, say so, if it's a funny joke, I'm gonna laugh at it. It better be funny,
Okay.
And if you can laugh with them about it, they automatically are more comfortable with you because it's like, oh, okay, you comfortable with yourself. Now we can have a conversation. So they're gonna follow up. Well, why do y'all do this? Well, I'm not y'all, I'm me. Now you can make that connection with the person. But for instance, if you look at certain parts of our community, and not just our community, but it might be Black and white, it might be men and women, it might be somebody who's disabled versus not disabled, whatever differences there are. People can't acknowledge comfortably what their differences are. So, for instance, with the trans folks and with some gay people, they go, we want to be a part of society. But when society makes fun out of you, like we do with everybody else, you go, don't make fun out of me. When you do that, you are saying, I'm not a part of y'all. So you're excluding yourself. Whereas if you get in there and you say, yeah, that shit is funny. That shit is funny as fuck. And it's true. And you might be able to follow up with a joke that's just as funny.
Mm-hmm.
Now you're a part of what's going on. And social media, we're so stuck on what things look like as opposed to dealing with what they really are. And it's fucking us up. It really is fucking us up.
My whole thing about that is, I was always taught believe none of what you see and half of what you hear.
There you go.
So just because I see something doesn't make it all, what I'm saying, doesn't make everything true. You know what I'm saying? Like it's some, videos that you can't edit, you can't doctor. You know what I'm saying? And sometimes and you're there and you see that moment reposted, sure. But I'm never the type of person that's going to take what I see on someone's profile or someone's story or someone's live is factual or 100% guaranteed the truth. I'm more of a person that's going to talk to you to your face or talk to you directly and basically read what type of person you are, how you respond to certain questions and stuff like that. Because that's how and sometimes people can't convey uh what they really mean through words. They do it through actions, you know what I mean? So I think that's what's more important. Like, I can sit in a room with a bunch of people that might hate my guts, but until they verbalize it or they show me that, I'm gonna treat them like anybody else. And I think that's what needs to happen. Like, stop putting so much faith in everything you see. Everything you see and everything you read is not the gospel. You know what I'm saying? You can't just take someone's word for it and be like, oh, I gotta this person said I should do this in order for me to get better. How do you know? Have you done research? Have you tested? Have you dieted? Have you fasted? You don't know what's best for you until you do the research.
Mm-hmm. And most people aren't that intelligent. I don't like to call people dumb, but most of us are just grown babies walking around. And we need leadership. So that's why we need a president. That's why we need a mayor. That's why we need a governor. That's why we need this. That's why because most of us are just grown kids who don't know what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
And most people govern themselves by what they feel. They're too busy thinking about what they feel as opposed to what really is. And that really takes stepping outside of yourself. And a lot of people don't have the capacity to do that. I think it really is a survival mechanism. But one of the things that's helped me to do that again is humor. Like when you can laugh at shit, when you can laugh at it, you're able to detach yourself from it and not give a fuck. You're like, okay, this is what it is. Let's laugh at it. I don't like this about me. I don't like this about you. But when we can laugh at it, it's like, all right, now we can confront it. Let's deal with this shit.
Man, that's it's one of those like five keys to life. You know what I'm saying? Humor and laughter, and not everybody can understand or appreciate it neither.
Mm-hmm.
When I was a kid, um, one of my earliest memories of enjoying like movies and comedy was Eddie Murphy. And I remember, I think I might have been 4 or 5 watching Coming
Mm-hmm.
to America, and I was like, Prince Hakeem is funny. Like this dude is funny, right? And then like maybe a few months later, I see Beverly Hills Cop 2, and I'm like, why doesn't Prince Hakeem have his accent? Like he's still funny, but then I started realizing, the concept of actors. But then I said, oh, this is Eddie Murphy. Eddie
Mm-hmm.
Murphy has a direct connection to my funny bone. Like it doesn't matter what he's doing, his facial expression, his mannerisms, like, what I'm saying? Like I don't think this generation can get outside of their own way because it's not a rarity like that. Like to have seen Coming to America on TV, I had to catch that like on UPN on a Saturday afternoon because we didn't have cable like that. Or
Right,
what I'm
right.
saying, my mother had the VCR in her room and I didn't want to watch what she wanted to watch. So in order for me to watch the movies I wanted, what I'm saying, I had to get my own VCR or watch what you know what I'm saying? So because everything's at their fingertips, there's no appreciation for it because it's so accessible. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's it. You remember when VCR tapes was the shit?
Oh
You
yeah.
thought that was a shit to have a VCR tape. And now, I mean, look at us now. We got computers and phones. You can download anything you want on a phone now. So
Absolutely.
which is scary because I think one of the things that made what when we were growing up fun was the mystery attached to a lot of things, understanding it, learning it, figuring it out. But there's no mystery with things, and everything is like red. Basically, just go. When we was little, I didn't know what a pussy looked like till I was 18. No, I did. I knew what it looked like, but I was scared. I was, I was, I was, I was terrified,
what what did
But
you what did you think was going to happen when you saw it?
I didn't know. I thought I would get lost in there or something. I didn't know. Cause when we were kids, we would flash each other and stuff like that. But there was still mystery attached to that
Hmm.
because it was just mystery attached to it. Now, I mean, it's like now, and again, this goes back to some of this deep thinking and philosophical thinking that we're having. I think that people have way too much access to things now. I
Hmm.
think people are too intelligent for their own good now.
Is it intelligent because you have a smartphone? Because there's a lot of dummies with smartphones.
Well, this is true. I think people have too much access to information. I think what makes you wise is when you get bit by bit and when you're able to really accept it as a truth.
Hmm.
And that aspect is gone now. That's what it is.
I'm a firm believer in common sense not being common.
Mm-hmm. And which was always the case, but now that's to the 10th power. Yeah. Yeah. Now that's to the 10th power.
A lot of people, um, those people who are just being themselves and they go viral from like a video or whatever. That's kind of their superpowers, and those were diagnosed as ADD or erratic or special or whatever back in the day. And I think that being pigeon-toed like that is what created those angry, frustrated people and made them
Mhm.
become so erratic as they got older. So, um, a- and in my belief, I believe that we need better teachers, not just in the school system, but in life. And, more open-minded guidance counselors and stuff like that. Like people who took their job seriously. Like, you know, when I was younger, my first job paid me $5 an hour. And if I was trying to, live on $5 an hour a day, I probably I don't know what I would do. But I work for that check. I work for that 253.13 at the end of them 2 weeks. You know what I'm saying? And because life has changed, of course you gotta evolve with it, but not everybody takes that. It's everybody wants the easy money. No one wants to,
Mhm.
what I'm saying, do that job. You know what I'm saying? So I think that because of that, of course you don't want your kids and your loved ones to struggle like you did, but they need that instilled to them. They need to know what it's like to actually earn your money and what I'm saying, take pride in your work, you know.
That's right.
And that's what this new generation is missing, because don't get me wrong, it's good to have options and be able to sit home and play video games, get paid for from all these viewers you got and everything, but can any of those skills translate in the real world?
And yeah, a lot of them they don't understand that. It's everybody wants like that quick fix now.
Hmm.
And I'm really happy. I think we both got that. Is learning that sometimes stuff is not going to work out the way you wanted to work out, and that doesn't mean you have failed. That just means that you gotta figure out how to navigate to getting to a space where you are seeing more of the results that you want to see. But again, I don't know. It's complicated. It's very complicated.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, but such is life. You know what I mean? So,
Hmm.
um, you've accomplished a lot in your life. You've done some writing, uh, filmmaker, activist, and you're also an author. And I actually ordered your book the other day, The Perspective
Thank
of
you.
Being a Gay Man in America. I'm waiting for it to come in because Amazon is some shit around here, and that next day shipping thing, sometimes it don't work out that way. But I'm looking forward to checking it out, and I want you to tell me about this book and what inspired you to write it.
So first, thank you for ordering that book, and hopefully Amazon get their shit together and get that over there to you. The thing that inspired me to write it is, even though I'm a black gay man, I don't think that makes me special. You know what I mean? It's like, even if I wasn't gay, somebody's still gonna look at me and find something about me that they don't like.
Hmm.
And it doesn't matter who you are. The only two jobs you have is to be who you are, and the other job is to not give a fuck when nobody think about what you got going on. Because you have to live with you, and you have to be comfortable being who you are. And it took me a long time to really understand what that really meant. And the reason why I wrote that book was because, as a comedian, I really pride myself on getting on stage being funny. I feel like, or I think, if you had people who are coming out to see you after a long day of work or whatever they got going on, they coming out to see you tell jokes. I come from that school, like, fuck the bullshit. Fuck, oh, I don't feel like it. My stomach was hurt, my mental health. If you're on stage to be a comedian or a singer, whatever it is you're doing, that's what you on stage to do. So when I was creating a lot of the material that I did during that particular time that I wrote the book, a lot of things that I created, that material came from, were very some of it was serious, some of it was painful, some of it was stuff that I didn't quite understand, because when you live in a society that tells you how you love or who you're attracted to is not right, any normal human being is going to start questioning everything about themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And so that book is just full of essays about what those questions were. It was essays to challenge myself, essays to challenge people who maybe thought some of the things that I was thinking about, who I was attracted to, and also the other side, like people who were interested in knowing what it was like. But again, a lot of people, they might have questions. I don't think people are necessarily homophobic. I think that's lazy to say people are homophobic. I think people don't understand things. Mm-hmm. And I wrote the book for people who don't understand things, for people who I think if you were a decent person, I think people will like you, but people will be like, man, this dude is cool. This person is cool, but like, what the fuck? And I wrote it for those people. And the thing that I really want the gay community and the trans community to get better at is realizing that people don't have to say, oh, I accept how you love. That's not for them to do. Because even if you were straight, if you got with some girl who was a hoe, or, you know, who, whatever, somebody's still gonna have a problem with something that you do. Mm-hmm. You have to get comfortable with yourself. And I wrote the book just to challenge everything, to be very honest and say, hey, this is a conversation that's not happening enough in the Black community, but this is what my thoughts are. It's okay to feel however you feel on both sides. And I think that's what we need to be honest about. Like, we're human beings. Like, nothing is, very, very few things are very concrete. Somebody's always going to have a question about something. And the book was written to give people nobody has the answers, but it was written to give people considerations, things that help you consider finding a place to settle in on things that you may be interested in trying to figure out.
Okay. So have you ever been in a situation where, like, you was being brought up on stage and someone said that you were a gay comedian or a Black gay comedian? Like, labels are strong, especially in this day and age. So is that a hurdle you had to get over, or is that something that really doesn't bother you?
It didn't bother me, because I know that if I meet somebody, I'm not just a gay person. Mm-hmm. That's just a small part of who I am. That's 10% of who I am. Mm-hmm. I know that what I've been through, I know the type of person that I pride myself on being. I know the way that I approach life. If a person meets me, even if they have a problem with, how I get down at home, they're gonna be like, that dude is dope. It comes down to, again, knowing who you are. And my identity is not tied up in that little small part. Because even if it's not gay, it's gonna be like, okay, well, why does he like to sleep with hoes? It's gonna be, why does he do this? Or somebody's gonna find something. And I have just always, and since I've known what it's like to be a person, I've just always prided myself on showing up authentically, that I know when I meet somebody, they're gonna relate because I'm real. Mm-hmm. So me being gay is nothing. It's I feel like there are some people who are they get so wrapped up in certain parts of their identity, because that's the only thing about themselves that they feel like they can rest on. It like makes them special. And me being gay is not what makes me special. Like I'm a Black man. I have knowledge about things. Like I'm, even though I'm not like a gregarious, I'm not like super social, like I'm a people person. Like I get people. And for
Mm-hmm.
that reason, people get me. And I just feel like if you show up like that, people get that. And even if it's something like about you that they don't understand, because they get you, they're willing to try to figure the rest of it out. I really don't feel like sexuality is that big of an issue. I think it's more of an issue that lack people lack that connection that we need as human beings that are just different from who we know.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes sense. Like none of us are the same. I'm not going like me, I'm not gonna be sitting up kissing on another dude in front of people because number one, I just think whatever you do in your bedroom, that's your business.
Mm-hmm.
People don't need to know that. And then number two, it's like you are here to know me as a person. I'm a good dude. I'm a dope dude. And so it doesn't matter who I sleep with. That's a different equation. But I'm not gonna hide that either. And I think when you show up like that, when we all show up like that, is like, this is who I am. Honestly, I think that, there's mutual respect that happens because there's no agenda attached to it.
You don't have those type of you don't have those type of experiences like it used to be, because now it's more of, it's either one side or the other. It's never no happy median. You know what I'm saying? You either hearing about uh a hate act going on, or you hear about a new law being passed to prevent things like that from happening. You know what I mean? So until there's more understanding, you always gonna have that disconnect. And
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? And that's what we need to fix. I mean, don't get me wrong, this country is a few hundred years short of being what we can consider to be fixed or get back on the right track. But, it's important that people are open minded and they're willing to accept people for who they are, because they're doing the same thing to you. You just haven't gave them the chance yet.
that's right. And it does take being comfortable in who you are. You can't solely exist expecting for other people to accept what you got going on. Like I think if you accept who you are, if you aren't out here trying too hard, if you aren't here focused on making people accept what you got going on, it makes it a lot easier for both sides.
Most definitely. Most definitely. So, as far as stand up in 2021, I know that you working out a set right now, but who are some of the people that you're fans of these days? Like some of the younger comedians. Of course, you got people like Cat Williams and Red Grant and Lunel, who's out here doing it. Is there anybody that you find yourself a fan of these days, out of the younger generation opposed to the OGs in the game?
I I mostly study the OGs because there's just there's a certain importance in studying the blueprint.
Mm-hmm.
I really believe in excellence when it comes down to the craft. So it's really about challenging myself to continue to rise to that standard. At the same time, being a Black gay comedian, which I've been for over 20 years, and I was that before it became cool.
Mm-hmm.
Before anybody was talking about acceptance in the industry or anybody cared about Black gay, I was doing that. Um, the craft was most important, but there are a few youngins. Paris Sachet is one who
Okay.
I remember when she first started. I don't know, I just liked her. And when I was doing my shows in DC, I always invited her to come host for me. And since then, she started doing her thing. And I've really enjoyed seeing her evolve in her own artist. There's another black gay comedian, and this is huge because being a black gay artist in this industry, when I was coming up, it was hard to find a gig. So I've never been insecure about my talent because I know that I'm very talented, highly talented. But it was more on, well, shit, if it's hard for the couple of us who running around to find a gig, if we start bringing other ones in, how any of us gonna work? I had to work through that. But there's another one who I really enjoy, and he's been around for, I think, maybe about 5 years, and his name is Dwayne Perkins. I really like him. And Monica Sanders. I like Miss Pat.
Okay.
I like there are a lot of folks who are doing comedy. None of them stick out though to me because I'd be too busy. I'm too busy back here with the OGs.
Okay. So who are some of your favorite OGs?
Oh, well, we got to go back. So Moms Mabley is one of the ones. A lot of people don't know who Moms Mabley is.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't know who Moms Mabley is, you got to break out the old Apollo theater tapes. Moms Mabley was one of the first black female stand-up comedians. And she was doing it back in the 50s and 60s when there were no black women doing comedy. She would dress up like an old lady because during that time, being black doing stand-up was dangerous because you couldn't perform flat-footed as a stand-up comedian during the Jim Crow era. And so to have a black woman stand up on stage and talk about racism, civil rights, Jim Crow, and it was so dangerous that she had to dress up as a black woman, as an old black lady, so she could do her jokes. You got to check her out. Hilarious. Red Fox is also one of my favorites.
Okay.
Richard Pryor, you cannot, I don't think you can be he doesn't have to be your favorite, but if you are a black comedian, you cannot give a nod to Richard Pryor. Richard Pryor contributed so much to black comedy and the comedy in general that you cannot be a comedian and not acknowledge the greatness that him being the king of comedy presented. Dick Gregory is another one.
Mm-hmm.
Who I'm really lucky. I got several opportunities to meet and work around. Paul Mooney. I toured with Paul Mooney for several years. Who else? Sinbad. Anybody who was on Def Comedy Jam. Okay. Because that was a breaking point for black comedy. So, any of them. And I'm really lucky. I'm so blessed, G, that I've had an opportunity to work with Martin Lawrence, to work with, Mike Epps, some more, Adele Givens, Monique, Michael Blackson, black comedy royalty. The Wayans family. This is black comedy royalty.
Man, that's dope. Like all the people you just named is all people that, either made me laugh or inspired me in some way in my life. Like, especially Martin Lawrence and Richard Pryor. Like, at one point in time, that's who you saw on TV all the time, on the billboards or in the movie theaters. Like, I sit back and I watch like Brewster's Millions or Hear No Evil, See No Evil, like, a couple times a year just to get that laugh because not everybody gets it. Like, these people are just naturally funny, and you put them in a regular situation, and they're gonna act a fool, and it's gonna be to me, it's gonna be the funniest shit ever. When everybody else might not get it.
That's right. It's in living color. Arsenio Hall, who he always the great thing about Arsenio, and a lot of people don't know this, is Arsenio always challenged the status quo. And the second go around when he came back with his comedy, with his talk show in the mid 2000s,
Mm-hmm.
And they were going to have me to come on, and I was supposed to go on during the second season, and right before I was supposed to go on, his show got canceled. But the fact that he and his crew were willing to have an openly gay black comedian on during a time before that became popular, even in the mid 2000s, was still important. And I mean, that's what comedy is about. Comedy is about pushing those boundaries and making people laugh at things we might not understand, but it makes it comfortable enough for us to be able to understand and be able to talk about.
So, what is one of the best things you got from comedy?
Understanding people, understanding life, because I think some of us are taught what life is, and most of the time, what we've been taught about life is not true. And so, when you can laugh at what the reality is, it helps you to develop into a better person because you're open minded enough and you're less impacted by the things that many people are affected by in a way that you can laugh at it and you can deal with it in a more realistic way. You know, conversations that I can have with other Black people. Because again, like the LGBTQ community gets so caught up in, oh, these people, they don't like the way I live, they don't like who I am, and nobody's gonna like everything you do completely. But being able to show up to a comedy club and to still get a standing ovation in front of people who don't live like I do, but they still can relate to me, and we can still laugh together. That's powerful.
Yeah, man. I envy that ability to get up on stage and just, let it all hang out. But of course you have like that natural talent to just, you know, I don't want to say tell a joke, but to actually just, speak in a way that's gonna, what I'm saying, tickle someone's funny bone. And I think, people like you is what's keeping us together. Because at the end of the day, at the end of a bad day, you want one or two things. You want some type of comfort through food or some type of weed or liquor, or you want something that's gonna make you laugh and forget about that. You know what I'm saying?
All three.
All,
All three is the best.
all three plus sex, I guess. You know what I'm saying? So, all,
Is the best.
all of that, all of that works in conjunction with each other, and without that, I don't think that, what I'm saying, we will be where we are today. You know what I'm saying? If someone didn't make a ruler or a dictator laugh, then he would probably would have killed most of the people. You know what I'm saying? So comedy saving lives, and that means that comedians are lifesavers, in my opinion.
That's right.
Hey, so you need to add that to your bio. Just to put asterisks and put lifesaver at the bottom. You know what I'm saying?
Comedians, I think we are lifesavers. We offer that perspective that allow that extra sweetness. Because I think life is what you make it, but I think being able to laugh at it allows you an extra grace. If you are not, and I'm one of those people, I believe in a higher power.
Hmm.
Um, next to a higher power, if you have the ability to be able to laugh, that makes life a lot sweeter to be able to get through, a lot easier.
Most definitely, man. This has been dope, man. I appreciate you for joining me today and sharing a little bit of your life story with me. I honestly I didn't know what to expect, but I was like, man, this dude is funny. And after watching a couple of your interviews and, seeing your videos and everything, I was like, I definitely want to get to know this person. And, after, having this conversation with you, man, we got to do this again.
Absolutely, we definitely can.
Okay, okay, no doubt, no doubt. So, why don't you, let the people know where they can find you. If it's anything you want them to check out, what I'm saying, you go ahead and let them know right now.
Okay, so I have a new film out on Amazon Prime called Love the One You're With. It's really funny and it's just a great story. Check it out. Love the One You're With on Amazon Prime. And also, I have a new film that will be out very soon with Jesse Smollett called B-Boy Blues. It's based on the 1994 novel by James Earl Hardy, and it's another great film. And it doesn't matter who you are, what you got going on. If you appreciate something that's good, you're going to be able to look at both of these films and relate to them. And my latest comedy special called Church Boy is on YouTube. So definitely go on YouTube and check it out. It's hilarious. It could easily be on Netflix, but we put it on YouTube. That's what you got to do sometimes.
Okay, I'm gonna check that out. You got any shows coming up in the DC area?
I actually don't tell nobody, but I just did a show this weekend in DC at Martin's Crosswinds with Flame Monroe. We did a show, I think it was Saturday or Friday. What is the day? Thursday? We did it. Corona got us all fucked up. We did the show on Monday.
Okay.
in Greenbelt, and it was really good. So hopefully I'll be back in DC actually next August at the DC Comedy Loft. So by the time I get back, I have a lot of great new jokes.
Okay. Yeah, if you said next August, well, hopefully I'll be able to catch you before that, but you know what I'm saying, I love to see you you know, stand up in person, you know what I'm saying? Don't get me wrong. You know, having access to, you know, good content is one thing, but I miss live shows. You know what I'm saying? So ain't nothing like going to like a good live show, whether it be music, comedy, or whatever.
Your live shows are where it's at.
Okay. So your social media?
Yes, so Instagram at Sampson McCormick. You can also check out samsoncomedy.com and you know, just Google Sampson McCormick. There are articles, there are videos, there's everything out there. And I mean, there are tons of content. Mm-hmm. And one thing that I can say honestly, thank God, I could not do this without something stronger than me. Is there's a lot of content out there it's really great, funny content that you will enjoy, that you can look at if you look up my name. So just check out Sampson McCormick, and I promise you will thoroughly enjoy what you see.
No doubt, no doubt. Ladies and gentlemen, I am your host, the Landover Legend, aka Big T, and this has been another installment of the I Can't Make This Up podcast. That's I Can't, with a K, Make This Up podcast. You can find me everywhere podcasts are available. I'm also on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram. And if you enjoyed this show, please leave a like, comment, and share. And if you didn't, let me know in the comments and I'll block you. Until next time, peace.
I can't make this up. Being the wingman got me punched in the face by this crazy chick. I can't make this up. Gave this cool old man a ride home, now I'm harboring the fugitive. I can't make this up. Pinned between the fat chick and the speaker, now my shirt smell like her backside. I can't make this up. It's all bad cause my man about to get stabbed in his hand over french fries. Bet. I'ma let T tell you that story one day, man. It's a good one. And I'ma let the Landover Legend do the rest. I'm out.